Along with having to go to war and die for the world's elites, marriage is perhaps one of the worst things that has ever happened to men. And I mention that to draw attention to the fact that women have single-handedly wrecked millions of men's and families' lives throughout the world in the name of unhappiness or for their own selfish benefit. Men undoubtedly have a part to play in this, but in my opinion, when a group of people decides to act in the same way, it can't just be a coincidence any longer. Reflect about it. How is it possible that women consistently choose to file for divorce more frequently than men do in the vast majority of nations, where there is no requirement for a reason? Could everything be a coincidence? I doubt it. I realize that many guys make poor choices and marry women, so I can't just place the burden entirely on the shoulders of women. They shouldn't have WID based just on how attractive she is, or in order to have their own internal peace leaf. He makes the decision to ignore all the screaming red signs, which, from what I can tell, has the effect of completely upending his life. And males should refrain from making known 304 commitments. Because if you make a stupid choice like that, believing you can change the woman, you are immediately digging your own tomb. I must therefore name the men who willfully took a bad judgment and make them pay for it. I'm sure you guys know at least one man who you saw with a woman you assumed belonged on the streets and wondered why in the world he would choose to marry her. I'm referring to one man, but it's inconceivable that men everywhere commit the same error. As a result, you must now return to the women and lay the blame at their feet, as they are the ones who end their marriages in large numbers. So clearly something is wrong. Let's discuss the failings of marriage and monogamy and how they are responsible for ruining the lives of millions, if not billions, of men worldwide. We must first examine monogamy to determine whether it is the cause of the problem before we can comprehend why marriage was a bad idea. Humans are not at all monogamous, something that can be seen without the need of a magnifying lens. Men and women will always commit adultery. This has probably been true throughout the history of Homo sapiens. You will therefore have to accept that. What does that teach us? The majority of women will find a method to cheat, and just a small percentage won't cheat at all. As a result, a person's number of options determines how devoted they will be to their relationship. This is evident when considering the amount of possibilities today's top 10 men and women have. It makes sense why they would never stick with one spouse just when individuals are charging at them. Now consider the other men and women who do not have that option. You will notice that their pool of potential partners is extremely narrow, if not entirely non-existent, as is the case with male virgins and very ugly women who we see inside the cells. Therefore, when those people do find a partner, they won't be able to cheat on their partner or swiftly move on and date someone else. Therefore, they must practice monogamy and only commit to one partner. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Always keep in mind that monogamy and sexual exclusivity are two different things. I use the phrase monogamy on purpose because other people engage in sexual exclusivity. Monogamy, on the other hand, means one partner for life, where they temporarily stay faithful and enjoy the bedroom with one partner at a time. We are aware that humans don't only have one partner for life, rather, we engage in polyamory or have a variety of partners and sexual relationships. My thesis is that we are not inherently monogamous, hence monogamy doesn't work. We openly choose to cheat on our partners and date multiple individuals when given the chance, as long as we have the chance to do so. And this is why monogamous marriages, which rely so heavily on it, ultimately fail. If you disagree, then you'll have to explain why so many married people wind up cheating on their wives, because most people find it impossible to turn that switch off and not want to have sexual enjoyment with other people in the bedroom. In the woman's instance, it is typically because she is unhappy or wasn't able to meet one of her demands. She then returned outside to explore her choices and see if anything better was available. It's time for the written exam if you are unable to see how monogamy is a complete failure, even though there is obvious evidence outside. Write down the names and phone numbers of everyone you've ever been in a relationship or fornicated with on a piece of paper. Then compare the two and note how many partners you currently have. Most people will only currently be dating themselves or one other person. Does having to go through so many relationships only to be alone, or have one make monogamy a success? My exact point. For the majority of people, including myself, it was a massive waste of time. Let's look at how marriage has failed males and ruined their life now that we've discussed how monogamy has failed the majority of individuals in the globe. Let's examine American statistics on marriage and divorce as the foundation for our argument. Approximately half or a little bit more than half of Americans are unmarried right now, and a trend toward less and fewer people deciding to get married is emerging. People who are married, on the other hand, seem eager to get divorced. Far more often than males, women decide to end their marriages by filing for divorce, and it all began when women were given the choice by the government. The introduction of no-fault divorce gave women the choice to quickly divorce their husbands, which is the essential term here. It gives them permission to divorce without being held responsible. With a no-fault divorce, however, all they had to say was irreconcilable differences, and suddenly the man's world was flipped upside down. Previously, women or men would have to provide evidence as to why the marriage was to be dissolved. If you understand how American courts operate, you'll see that they actually encourage family dissolution and provide special attention to women because, at the end of the day, that's how they get their money. They don't give a damn about the family staying intact. The reason why? When the industry is worth $1 billion, their business strategy is to serve women, so they can take as much money as possible from the men, fund their children's further education, and purchase opulent villas in the hills to live the high life. They penalize the male without worrying if he even has a place to sleep, since they are aware that the majority of women are not economically valuable. What this accomplishes is to inform women that they have the option to file for divorce, earn cash and prizes, and go on to someone else if they are unhappy in their marriage or their financial condition. As a result, they deliberately decide to be self-centered and blow apart their family in order to extort more money from the man without even having to be there in his life. As far as using the children as bargaining chips to acquire what they want, and once more, because the court favors women, the more custody she has, the more money the lady and the court will receive. In order to increase their financial gain, they increase female custody, so removing the father from the children's lives at least half the time. Is that not illegal? The men are already in financial trouble, and we haven't even discussed spousal support. Therefore, when considering marriage as a whole, it appears to be a one-sided agreement that primarily benefits women and not males. Because they don't want to lose their children or more than half of their hard-earned assets, most men choose not to file for divorce. Consequently, people continue to be in unsatisfactory marriages. However, this risk is generally not present for women who don't drop a lot of weight. Once they have gotten the most money out of you, they would prefer to see you living on the streets with nothing. Having said that, do you think the establishment strikes you as successful? Because of a woman, an unappreciative, greedy woman, so many men have had their children taken away from them and everything else they worked so hard to achieve. The primary factor leading to divorce is frequently financial. Therefore, judging by the promises, what happened to the richer and the impoverished didn't even really matter anything. In other words, the marriage was predicated on the condition that the man gave her everything she wanted, or else she would not stay with that man. So the instant the man cannot provide as much as he was able to, or he made some bad investments or bad decisions, and his money became funny, she decides that I'm done. And even when males obtain what they want from their wives, they will still find a way to get a divorce and ruin the family in order to further their own agendas. At this moment, when women actively punish men for making commitments to them, I personally believe that only a fool would get married. I still understand when a woman has a good reason to desire to leave her marriage because of certain things that still occur. Greg to heaven and back, yet in most situations the male did nothing to deserve getting divorced. But as long as she can gain from the divorce, they don't care and never will. Women will seek divorces. They don't care if you end up on the streets. They don't care if you aren't involved in the lives of the kids. They don't care whether you never financially recover or pass away in the process, neither do they. Some people even pray for your demise in order to avoid deleting you. So, do you still believe that the institution of marriage is successful? The saddest aspect is that, while the husband pays for it, the one thing men join marriages expecting is either withheld from them or provided for free to someone else. In relation to the failure of monogamy, women appear to be unable to keep their commitments even when they actively promote it. That they can have the wedding, but they don't seem to give a damn about keeping their marriage vows. Married women have no difficulty having an extramarital child and presenting it to their husbands because they know that as long as they can get their spouse to sign the birth certificate, they will ultimately come out on top. Moreover, they don't give a damn if you spend your entire life raising another man's child while believing that the child is your own. And what about that? The saddest part is that although marriage was designed to guarantee child conception, it now belongs to the husband rather than being something you can count on women to handle. Still not seeing how marriage has failed men. It's awful that men still have to work and care for their families and still aren't allowed to enjoy sexual activity in bed with their wives at the end of a long, stressful day. Sexless marriages are fairly prevalent. Most guys get married because of sex, but women are so self-centered that they won't let the man relax by lying on his back for 15 minutes. Instead of the man at home, she would rather leave the marriage and give another man her lovely wet intestines. This is how disgusting they are, sacrificing himself to give her a roof over her head, food on the table, and protection. More men need to recognize the unfair treatment they are receiving. If a man dares not support his family and pay his debts, he will get divorced, which is the reality of the majority of American men's marriages. Now let's aim for the entire planet to determine if the West is the only region with these issues. Many men think that women generally do not act badly and that only women in the West do so. I can't conclusively demonstrate that most women throughout the world behave like those in the West, but I can argue that, depending on the nation you consider, some, if not all, of the things American women do to manipulate their husbands are also done in other parts of the world. Whether it be adultery, a sexless union, paying for the man's divorce, and so forth. In every country in the world, women will take advantage of the resources at their disposal to manipulate men and achieve what they want. Please feel free to disagree with me, but the majority of women on earth are not decent women. In fact, the Bible even states that finding a good lady is difficult. By that reasoning, the majority cannot be good. There are some women you can get along with, and those who are outright 304s, but it is erroneous to assume that the majority of women in the world are decent individuals. This is not meant as a slight against women. Rather, it is a statement of reality. As I previously stated, there are certain women you can work with to some level, while there is a small percentage of decent women. The majority of males will never understand it. Why would you? When it comes to finding a lady you can get along with as a male, throw the dice till you get a 3 or a 4. That would be something for you to decide. My message is to lead a life of freedom because I believe in the failure of marriage and monogamy. You should have all the knowledge you need to make a sane decision after taking a stroll outdoors and observing the amount of people divorcing. I'll end here. If you like the article, click the thumbs up icon and subscribe.